Hi, this is Gail with Beaded Jewelry Diva, and today we are going to make tassels. These are the two we're going to be making today, and one is made out of embroidery floss, and the other one is made out of silk thread. And they are finished in two different ways, so we're going to learn each way how to do this. We're also going to see different kinds of threads you may have around the house that you might want to try, or may not. You'll see what I mean. Also, I will show you some ways that I have used these or embellished these, so it's things that are a little different. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up because it really does keep me encouraged. And also, if you don't already subscribe to my YouTube channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, then that little bell, and you'll always get notified whenever I have a new video up. Now let's go ahead and make some tassels. Okay, for this first tassel, we are going to use some just plain old embroidery floss. I have a piece of cardboard, and the piece of cardboard should be whatever length you want your tassel. Personally, I'm going to use this one today for this demonstration. I have a jump ring. I have two pairs of pliers to go ahead and open the jump ring, and I have a pair of scissors. That's what we need for our first tassel, so let's get going. Now, making this is really quite easy. What you do is you take your embroidery floss and your piece of cardboard and you just wrap around and you keep wrapping. And as you see, I have one piece over here that I'm kind of holding on, and that's basically my tail. So I am going to continue wrapping until I've got this entire spool or entire bunch of thread wrapped. Okay, I've wound off pretty much everything except for I saved back, about a foot maybe of some of it for the bind off. So now we've got this, and we are going to put our jump ring to work. What we'll do is take the jump ring and just get, kind of lift up your piece of cardboard and gently maneuver the jump ring around all the floss. So you can see that I pretty much got it. And then you need to close the jump ring. And this is really, I think at times it's more art than science. And you can see that I've got a tiny bit stuck in there. So jump ring closed. There we go. Now that I have the jump ring closed, I'm just going to move it up a little bit. And let's see, our next part is going to be, this is going to be the very top of our tassel. And we need to get this off the cardboard. And the easy way to do it is just pin the cardboard. Most of us have plenty of cardboard around the house, so you shouldn't have to worry about not having extra. So here we go. Here's our loop. Now we have to do a bind off. To do the bind off, what I like to do is take my extra piece of cord, lay it down, and then do a simple loop. Now I've got to make sure to do the loop kind of far up on this. I don't want it down really far because I want a lot of tassel hanging, but I want to make sure that it's not, too close to this either. It's really your preference, but I think this looks like a good distance. So I've got one knot, and it's just an overhand knot, and I'm going to do a second one. And if you notice, I just flipped it over and did it on the other side. So it's my second knot, and I'm going to go for a third, just because I like things to be very secure. And then you noticed I have one piece that's much longer than the other piece. That's going to be my finishing binding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to wrap it around a few times, just to kind of finish it off a little bit. Then I'm going to make one more knot, I think. So here and here and then tight. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and add a drop of glue to this, just a tiny drop of glue, just to make sure that it's absolutely positively tight. I'm not going to do that now for time constraints, but take this and snip off the excess. Get a sharp pair of scissors, and that's one thing I neglected to mention. Get a sharp pair of scissors. So we've got it looking like this. Now we have all this bunch down here. We've got to get rid of all the loops. So what I like to do is I like to take my scissors and just poke through, hold on to this end, and snip. Now I kind of comb through it with my fingers, see if I've got any more loops left. Yep, there's one. And just kind of put your scissors through it. All right, I'm going to assume that I don't have any closed loops left. At this point it looks a little on the shaggy side, so we're going to give this a haircut. And what I like to do is just kind of brush it till I think I've got it about where I want it. And that's when I take my scissors and do the cut. So we have it looking like this. And if we want to go ahead and attach something to it, we have our pliers, and we can go ahead and put a jump ring through the jump ring. So jump ring through the jump ring. And now we've got something that we can hang from a necklace, hang from an earring, do anything like that. Here we go. Now that's using the embroidery floss, and this is just the basic way of making a jump ring. Now I'm going to show you how to do it out of silk, using the silk threads, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like if you don't have any embroidery floss, you don't have any silk thread, and you want to try this with other kinds of thread. Alright, for the silk thread, here's what I have. I have some E6000 glue, I have some tacky glue, I have a end cap, I have my silk thread, and I have my piece of cardboard. Of course, I'll also have scissors to use. Let's go ahead and get started. Here's a tip. You noticed I have my blue painter's tape that I use for a lot of things. I just dumped my silk thread in here, and that way when I'm doing this and when it unrolls, at least I don't have to worry about the thread going all over the place. So go ahead and do this. Now I'm going to do, I think, 120 wraps on this one. And by the way, on the other one, I think I did 35 for the embroidery floss. But this is such a thin thread that I need to put a fair amount more. Okay, I've got actually probably about 130 wraps of this. And now before I take it off or do anything else, I'm going to take a little bit of tacky glue. I have Aleene's, but you can use any kind of white tacky glue you have. And I'm going to just spread it over just a little bit. And the reason that I'm doing this is because this silk, like I said before, is extremely slippery. And I found out that when I didn't do this step previously, I had some of the threads decide that they were going to pull out. Okay, this is pretty much dry now, and we're going to go to our next step. And our next step is I've got a piece of beading thread, and I used a contrasting color so that you could see this a little bit easier. The reason that I am not using the regular thread or the silk thread is because, again, it's too slippery, and also because it's so thin, it breaks easily. And I found that one out the hard way. So I'm just going to tie a knot, and I'm going to do it more or less over where I glued. I'm going to tie another knot. I'm actually going to tie probably about 3 knots. And pull tight when you're doing these knots. Okay, so I've got it looking like this at this point. And now we're going to do the next part, which is to put it actually in the bead cap. I've got a scrap piece of paper and I'm going to put a dab of the E6000 onto it. I do suggest using E6000 because this stuff holds and holds and holds. I think it's better than tacky glue for gluing this into a finding. Now I'm going to take this, slide it off, and gently go ahead and turn it inside out. And you may be wondering why I'm turning it inside out. Well, the reason that I'm doing that is most of the glue that I use, the tacky glue, is on what's now the interior. So this way the exterior is where it's going to get glued into the bead cap. Now, really what we want to do first is go ahead and nip these, seeing as I forgot to nip these first, but don't nip them too short. Just give them a little bit of length. Now we've got the bead cap, and I'm going to take a piece of, you can use a toothpick or a piece of wire or whatever. I'm going to take this, make it generous, and just put it around inside the bead cap. I mean, you don't want it to overflow the bead cap, but you do want a generous amount in it, and just squish it all around. All right. So now that I've got this in the bead cap, we will take this, I'm going to set this down for a second, and hold it very carefully and very tightly. You are going to push this into the finding. So this is the bead cap. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this sit for about 5 minutes. This is pretty much dry now, so it's time to go ahead and do my cuts. So I've got a different set of scissors, which I hopefully are a lot sharper. And I'll do the same thing that I did before. It's just go through and cut. And then I will cut until I'm done, and I will then show you the final set of trimming. And one thing extra that I do with the silk thread. All right, I finished cutting and trimming, but if you notice, this looks awful flyaway. And I found that with silk thread especially, and it could be just the kind of silk that I'm buying, but it tends to look like this. Now, there's a couple things you can do, but the thing that I like best, that I think it's easiest, I just take some water on my hand and I smooth it. And you may have to hold it a little bit, and you may have to repeat this more than once, but this ends up smoothing out the silk a great deal. So you can see that even now it's a whole lot less flyaway. Okay, here's the tassel, and you can see that it's not nearly as flyaway now, and it just takes 30 seconds or so to dry, so it's not that bad. So here we go, and let me show you tassels made with different threads, and all of these are made with the same number of wraps. Okay, here is the thread, very much like what this blue is. Matter of fact, it came from the same box. And 75 wraps. And of course, obviously, I did it with a shorter piece of cardboard. Next is some Silamide beading thread. And this is okay, but it's really a lot stiffer than I would like. And it didn't react as well to the flyaways. I'm using the water. So it's an option, definitely an option. Next is Eslon beading thread. So again, 75 wraps, and this acted a little bit better with the water, but it's still a little on the stiff side. If you want stiff though, this might be a good option for you. Next is some Beadsmith silk. This is made primarily for beading, and a lot of times it's used for knotting pearls, etc. This is the size E, and you get about 200 yards of it when you buy it, and it's about $10 or so. But this makes a nice tassel, and again, 75 wraps, it's a whole lot thicker than the other one. Same thing, beadsmith silk. This is the size F, so it's a little bit thicker than this other one. And it's still nice, and again, 75 wraps, but this time for this spool, I think you only get 140 yards. So it's kind of a trade-off. Next, I decided to try some macrame cord. And this is like micro macrame, I'll say that right. The micro macrame cord. And no matter what I do, I can't get it to not do the flyaways. So that's this one. I also decided to do the thicker version, and I'm not sure what I can use this for, but I'm sure something, I don't know, make it into a broom or something. And finally, we have our tassel, and this is with the embroidery floss. So you can see that 75 wraps of the embroidery floss makes you a very thick tassel. The only problem is you'd probably have to do more than one of these spools, for lack of a better term, bunches. You'd have to do more than one if you wanted something this thick. Here are the two from today's video. Here is the silk with the bead cap on it, or end cap, and here is the embroidery floss with the jump ring and another jump ring to go ahead and hang it from something. So now that we've seen these two, let's take a look at some other options, other ideas. This is a set that I made. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. Probably earrings on account of the fact that I've got two of them. But you can see that I used two different colors of the silk thread. So I just wrapped like 10 or 15 of one of the blue and then 10 or 15 of the gold. And I just kept alternating. So we've got something like this. Now, if you've seen my recent video on the herringbone wire wrap, then you'll remember these earrings. So they're just, your basic herringbone wire wrap with a tassel attached to it. And these are real shoulder dusters, the way that I made these. The next one I want to show you, and this one I've actually made with 3 different colors of red. So I've got a real deep red in here, I've got a light red, and then I've got the pink. So this is kind of interesting, and also this is what I did at the top. So you can see my end cap just like normal, but I took some 2.5 millimeter check fire polished glass. I strung them around, tied them off, and then what I did is I also put like a little dab of glue up under them so that they wouldn't shift around and, come off or anything like that. So this is another option. All right, we've got this one. This one I think is really fun. And what I've done is, this is embroidery floss, obviously. And I put a jump ring in here, and when I glued it on, so that I'd be able to hang a charm from it. And what I did is I used the vintage patina to make sure that the end cap and the charm were the same color, and I'll do a video on how to use the patinas. But I thought this one was a lot of fun. That would make a nice necklace, I think. And my final set are these. So let me put this one and this one up and show you this. Now, several things going on in this one. I did some bead embroidery on this part. So I've got my main cabochon that I glued down and etc. I'll put a link up to my bead embroidery 101 video. But then you can see what I also did on my bead cap is I glued a flatback crystal on it. I also have this dangling a little bit from the end or the bead. And I have a loop up here so I can attach it to some earrings. But I think that this is really cool, and I think I'm going to do a video on how to do something similar to this. So question, which one do you like better? Do you like the reds? Do you like the starfish? Do you like the pinkorama with the fire polished? Do you like the herringbones, the blue ones? Or do you like these lonely blue ones that I haven't decided what to do with? You can also vote for either one of these. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please stay tuned for the bloopers. You ought to see what I do for you people. If you don't already subscribe to my YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so and hit that bell button and you'll always get notified whenever I have a new video up. So this is Gail saying goodbye for the day and hang on for the bloopers. Catch you later. Bye. Oops, I'm not in frame. Not in frame and everything's just flying all over the place. But what I'm going to do is get these straight. Fighting a losing battle here, I think. All right, I'm cut and I'm cut, but I'm not sure if I'm anything else. I'm going to show you exactly, what am I showing you? A beading thread. This is not a beading thread. This is size E. Same thing, size F. And actually, I just did that backwards.